It was an ordinary day in Willow Creek. The sun was warm, dappling through the canopy of maple trees lining the riverbank, and the air buzzed softly with the sounds of summer. Birds chirped, dragonflies darted across the glassy surface of the water, and laughter echoed faintly from distant picnickers. But fate doesn't announce itself before it changes your life. Mia Carter wasn't looking for adventure that day. She had come to the river for her usual morning walk, a quiet ritual that gave her peace, away from the noise of town life. She was a preschool teacher, known by most as kind-hearted, a little shy, and someone who kept to herself. But beneath that quiet exterior was a woman shaped by life, resilient, compassionate, and brave in ways she hadn't yet realized. She was walking the narrow path near the river's edge when she heard it. A sharp cry, high-pitched and panicked. Then another. Mia stopped, heart thudding. She looked toward the water. Two little girls, twins, maybe 6 or 7, were struggling in the current. One clung to a broken tree branch, her grip slipping. The other was further downstream, bobbing under the water again and again, her arms flailing wildly. Without a second thought, Mia kicked off her shoes and dove into the river. The current was faster than it looked. It pulled at her limbs, but she swam with purpose, her strokes sure and strong. She reached the girl furthest downstream first, wrapping an arm around the child just as she sank beneath the surface. Mia turned, coughing, fighting the current as she held the little girl tight. She pushed toward the other twin, who was now barely hanging onto the branch. Her small fingers lost their grip just as Mia got close. With her free arm, Mia reached out, grabbing the second child by the waist and pulling her in. 2 children, 1 woman, a relentless current. The shore felt miles away. Mia kicked hard, her muscles burning. Her breath came in gasps, water splashing into her mouth and stinging her eyes. But she held on. She had to. Inch by inch, she dragged them all toward the bank, finally collapsing into the shallows, coughing and choking, but with both girls alive in her arms. The crowd had gathered by then. People who had heard the screams came running. Someone called for an ambulance. Others brought towels, wrapped the shivering girls in blankets, and helped Mia to her feet. She was exhausted, soaked, and shaking, but she didn't leave until the paramedics had assured her the girls would be okay. Then quietly, she slipped away. No names were exchanged, no thanks demanded. To Mia, it was just something anyone would have done, but not everyone would have. What Mia didn't know, what no one knew at that moment, was that those 2 little girls were the daughters of Daniel Whitmore, one of the most reclusive billionaires in the country. A tech visionary who had made his fortune before the age of 30, Daniel had spent the last decade building an empire and, in the process, losing touch with what really mattered. His wife had passed away 3 years ago, and since then, Daniel had raised the twins alone, trying to give them a normal life despite his wealth and notoriety. But he had grown increasingly disillusioned, with people who saw him only as a dollar sign, with a world that always seemed to want something from him. He had come to Willow Creek for a break from the chaos. No bodyguards, no headlines, just time with his daughters. A quiet riverside cabin, a chance to feel human again. And then came the call. The frantic voice of a stranger, the hospital, the words every parent dreads. He rushed there, found his daughter safe, but shaken, alive because of a woman who had disappeared without a name. "Daddy," one of the girls whispered, her voice hoarse. "The lady saved us." He leaned in, trying to understand. "She was kind," the other twin said, "like an angel." They had no idea who she was, just that she had appeared, brave and silent, like a guardian out of nowhere. Daniel couldn't stop thinking about it, not just the rescue, but the woman who had left without waiting for recognition or reward. It was unusual, rare, special. He could have pulled strings, put up posters, called in favors, but for once he didn't want to use his money or influence. He wanted to find her the right way, a human way. It was weeks before he saw her again. She was at the town's weekend farmer's market, buying a jar of honey, hair tied back in a braid, dressed in jeans and a loose shirt, her face still gentle and quiet. Daniel watched from a distance at first, recognizing her immediately. His daughters, too, lit up when they saw her. "That's her!" they cried in unison. Mia turned, surprised. and then overwhelmed as the girls ran up to her, hugging her tightly. Daniel approached slowly. "Are you Mia?" he asked. She nodded, confused. "I'm Daniel Whitmore," he said. "I believe you saved my daughters." She blinked, still trying to piece it together. "They're okay," he said softly, "because of you." "I'm just glad I was there," Mia replied, smiling awkwardly. "Anyone would have done it." He shook his head. "Not anyone. Thank you." There was silence, not uncomfortable, but charged with something unspoken. Gratitude, respect, and something else. Something neither of them dared name just yet. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed more often. Daniel invited Mia to dinner. Not the lavish kind, but something simple. Pizza on the cabin porch. She brought storybooks for the twins. They adored her. And as Daniel spent more time with her, he saw what he hadn't found in years. Authenticity. She didn't care about his money. She didn't treat him like a prize. She asked about his heart, not his net worth. Mia saw something too. Behind the billionaire title was a man who had been lonely far too long. A father, a listener, a kind, if slightly awkward soul rediscovering life outside the boardroom. Their bond deepened in quiet ways. Over shared laughter, riverside walks, late-night talks under the stars. They both tried not to rush, unsure if this fragile connection could survive the weight of reality. But love, like the river, doesn't always flow gently. Sometimes it sweeps you away before you know what's happening. Months later, under the same maple trees by the riverbank where it all began, Daniel knelt down with his daughter standing beside him. "Mia," he said, his voice catching slightly, "you saved my family before you even knew who we were. You showed me what love looks like without asking for anything in return." He pulled out a simple ring. "I've spent years searching for meaning, for trust, for someone real. And I found her in you. Will you marry me?" Mia's eyes filled with tears, not from surprise, but from the sense that this too was fate. "Yes," she whispered. The girls squealed with joy, and as the river flowed gently beside them, Mia smiled, realizing her ordinary life had become extraordinary. Not because of wealth or heroics, but because she had led with her heart. And love, as it turned out, had been searching for her all along. From a quiet act of courage came something no one expected. Not just lives saved, but hearts found. Mia didn't know the girl's father was a billionaire. He didn't know the woman he was searching for had already changed his life. Sometimes love arrives not with grand gestures, but with selfless ones. And in that moment by the river, everything began.